So I'm going to start with a little bit of my career background and my current role. Like most people in product, I didn't go to uni or start my career thinking that I was ever going to be a product manager, let alone a head of product. I actually started my career thinking I was going to be a teacher. And as things always do kind of happen, I was working my way through uni and decided suddenly that teaching wasn't really my thing, and I fell in love with software. And so I started working in software just over 20 years ago now. And at the time I was a software trainer. So it's kind of a little bit like teaching, because I have such a passion for tech, it was a really natural fit. From training, obviously you become an SME in your product, and so it was a really natural transition to move into product management at that point. And this was before Agile was really a thing, so we were kind of starting back in the XP days, which was really transformational at the time. And then from there, I really started developing my passion for tech even deeper, as well as really working with people and finding my stride in coaching and mentoring. And so the last 5 or 10 years, that's really where a lot of my focus has been, as my product knowledge becomes more in depth with agile processes. And really now I'm loving all the world of lean at the moment, which is definitely making a resurgence. And so with my career at this point now, I'm a head of product with a business called Compono, which is a Sydney scale-up, and with an office also in Brisbane. And we deliver software in the HR sphere. So it's really that holistic approach to the hire to retire. So not only looking at the recruitment, but the retention as well. And so in that role, I've got 4 product owners and managers, as well as 4 designers, with the goal in the next year to bring on about 5 or 6 more of both. And so really that growth and the opportunity to coach is where my passion is at the moment. And it's a really exciting moment to be with a scale-up. I love this question. Careers are more like a series of sprints. How did you get to where you are now? And my career is a prime example of that. I started my career as a software trainer. And then within that same business, I moved into consulting, and then into account management as being the SME for our series of products. And from account management, I dug back into the consulting realm, and my passion for tech was really starting to build at that point. And as the SME on the product, it was a very easy slip into product management. But really, part of that came because my mentor at the time retired, and recommended me as her replacement. And so I jumped at that opportunity. And from there, I developed a really strong relationship with our head of technology. And then from there, I moved into the senior PM role, and I took responsibility for the QA team as well as the tech support team. And then I moved into being an associate VP of products and built out the product team with the business that I was with in the US. At that point in my career, I met my now husband, who is an Aussie, and I moved from the US to Australia. And then from there, it was a little bit like starting from scratch, new culture, new climate. And so I started as a senior PM for a startup in Surrey Hills. And then from there, I moved into a leadership role with MYOB. And there I was running 6 Agile and Scrum teams, delivering their tax software. It was a really amazing opportunity because that was a big period of growth for MYOB at that point in time. And so we really scaled up from a couple teams when I started to 6 teams in my remit, and took the business from being very waterfall into agile and lean. So it was a really amazing opportunity. And then, like all things kind of in life, unexpectedly, I was approached by one of my favorite recruiters who told me about this other business called Athena that was another really successful Sydney startup. And they were doing just really incredible things. But again, they had just launched, and so they were looking to build out their product team. So they brought me in as a product lead, and it was a really amazing opportunity to work with some really great product managers. And at that point, I really scaled up the Agile. Again, that's kind of where some of my specialties are, is really looking at processes and improvements and building out the product team. Then COVID hit, and unfortunately, like a lot of other people, I was made redundant. And as luck would have it, and all things I believe for a reason, this amazing business called Compono, another really successful Sydney and Brisbane startup, was looking for a new head of product to really drive the internal processes and really run the business from within and scale up the product team. And so I've been with them for the last 5 months, and it has just been such an incredible opportunity. I really really love coaching and I love being able to be a mentor. So I've got a team of 4 product managers and 4 designers with a plan to double in the next year. And so I spend a lot of my focus helping them to build their skills. So that's a little bit of where I ended up where I am now. What's the best and or worst career advice I've ever received? This takes me back to when I was working with my mentor. She was such an incredible lead, and she was retiring her head of role, and I was her succession planning. So I was taking over her role. And it was during that transition period, and this is a really amazing moment for me. I was in a room with the CFO and CEO of our business, who both happened to be very, very tall gentlemen, and I happened to not be very tall, and I would actually just say that I'm short. And so I tended to always keep my chair so I could have my feet on the ground. And I was in a meeting with them and my mentor, and we came out of that meeting, and she pulled me aside, and I'll never forget this. She said, "You looked small in that room." She said, "I understand that you're short and why you did it." She said, "But it looked like they overpowered you, and your voice wasn't as loud because they were so tall in their seats and I was so short." She recommended next time, lift your chair up as high as you can so that you can keep eye contact and you're not looking up. Who cares if your feet dangle off the chair? No one's looking under the table. They want to look in your eyes. And I never have forgotten that moment. And now anytime since then that I'm in a room with anybody at any kind of a conference table situation, I always make sure that my chair lifts me up so that I am at eye contact. And I know it sounds like maybe just a little bit of a trivial story, but it's something that has really stuck with me since then. And so anybody who's short out there, lift your chair up. What did I wish I knew when I started my career? This is another really interesting question, and this is kind of dating myself as well. But growing up, my father always told my sister and I that we could do anything that we wanted to do, that the world was equal, and that women could go as far as men could go. I think he had a pair of pretty rose-colored glasses on at the time. So when I started my career, I believed all that. I believed that I was equal to every man in the room. What I didn't take into account was that wasn't the real world at the time. And, in my early 20s, I was young, I was short, I was petite, I was blonde, and I was pretty bubbly. And I wasn't equal. And it really hit me hard those first few times, especially being women in software and women in tech, that we weren't treated equally. There was a lot of condescension or a lot of not taking me seriously because of either my age or my hair color or my body type. And that was really hard for me to see that the world wasn't equal. We've come a long way since then, and we have a long way to go. But I think if I had known that at a younger age, I think I would have approached some things a little bit differently. I can remember some tears early in that career, in my career, for those reasons that I wasn't being taken seriously, and that was very hard. Had I known that was going to be the case going into it, I probably would have approached things a little bit differently. I'm really happy for women and how far we've come. I still think we've got a ways to go, but to see the number of women in the STEMs now, as well as the number of women in tech, is really inspiring, and I like to think that I was one of those women who helped pave that way. What's the biggest mistake that I've ever made in my career? This is one that I think a lot of people in product have probably made, and that is the classic overpromise and underdeliver. And so there was a pretty significant feature that I was trying to deliver many years ago. And I didn't do a good enough job slicing it, I don't think, into an MVP. I was trying to deliver too much. And ergo, I was promising something that was coming sooner than it was actually going to be readily available. And I'm not sure that I handled the stakeholder management as well as I could have in that. It was, being someone who's generally very optimistic. It was just, oh yeah, we're almost there. We're almost to the finish line. Announced it publicly to the user community. Then we had a technical snatch, as you do, and it delayed us by quite a bit. And so, in product, it's very easy to want to deliver the world. Defining an MVP can be very, very difficult. I've spent much of my career refining that and teaching people really what an MVP is and how to deliver an MVP. So that's one of those ones I think is kind of product 101 now, is to under promise and over deliver. So hopefully I won't make that same mistake again. I love this question. What do I think has been the key to my success? For me, it's two very simple things, and that is honesty and transparency. Throughout my career, I've always tried to make sure that I provide really honest feedback, and I seek that same really honest feedback back from everyone that I've ever worked with, whether that's upward or downward or peer feedback. I think it's really, really critical that we have that open communication. Transparency, no question. We just always want to be as straightforward as we can with everybody and not have anything behind locked doors. I love all the openness in workplaces now as opposed to offices, because you do have a lot more transparency because conversations are heard. And I think the thing that I really pride myself on the most is trusting and empowering the people that I get to work with. And so I don't like to sit behind the shoulder of everybody tapping, when's this going to be done? Are you ready for this? It's really trying to set realistic guardrails and goals, but also help people try to achieve that next level from that. And by empowering people to actually let them do their job, you brought them in for a reason. We're all adults in the room. And so you don't want to clock watch. Just let people be, give them some freedom, give them some guardrails, be there as much or as little as they need to be, and then just be honest with them. And I can't stress that over enough. I'm very, very fortunate the business that I'm in at the moment. Those are two of our values, our trust and empowerment, and everybody really embraces that. And you really see a sense of ownership within all of the teams. And so I would really encourage everyone out there. Sometimes it can be hard to let things go, to trust other people to do it. But since they trust me, it has definitely been one of my keys to success.